Hello, sweet parents. Welcome to the When Our Adult Children Walk Away podcast. My name is Dr. Janet Steinkamp, and during each episode of When Our Adult Children Walk Away, I will provide my professional and personal insights, information and opportunities for your self-reflection and growth, tips and tricks to make every day count, and encouragement to keep moving forward. I'm here to help you dig deep and get down to the root causes so that you can find your way out of the darkness to a positive and lasting relationship. Grab your notebook and a pen, settle into your favorite chair, and let's get to it. In this episode, we are talking about how to avoid busybodies. Well, the first question has to be why? Why do we want to avoid busybodies? Well, busybodies spread information to meet their own needs, to earn popularity, to show that they have social influence and social access. Busybodies are not, by the nature of their personal temperament and character, going to hear your information or feelings or opinions or stories through a neutral or supportive filter. They're going to hear any of that information through a filter to meet their needs. What can I do with this information? Who would want to know that information? How important is this information to our social circle? They may even want to take sides and lobby for one side or the other. It's very, very likely with busybodies that stories get altered, perspectives change, the facts change. We all know how post office works. When we were kids, you start with one thing, and by the time it gets said in secret around the circle, the message has nothing to do with the original. And inevitably, what they spread gets back to the adult son or daughter, and it polarizes them. Misinformation, information that's spread for the benefit of others, rarely serves each person or either person in an estranged or strained relationship well. So the first thing that we try to do is identify a busybody, somebody who spreads information for their own benefit, and maybe even just to kick up some drama. Maybe they're just addicted to drama and they like to be the person who causes drama, who feeds the social circle. Either way, if they're in there to serve themselves or they're in there because they like drama and they want to kick it up, the first thing to do is identify them. And these might be people that you love dearly. I knew that my mother-in-law, whom I loved her. We were together for 30 years in a family, and we both loved my husband together. My mother-in-law could not keep a secret to save her soul. In fact, you've probably heard me say this in other episodes. I got to the point that I knew if I told Sylvia something, I could save myself about 8 phone calls. By the end of the day, the entire family would know the information that I shared with her. So, for example, if you called to her first to say, we're engaged, we're pregnant, we're buying a new house, somebody has a new job, somebody broke up with somebody, the kids just had something happen in their lives of significance. It was rich information for her, and she felt compelled to tell the other siblings, her best friends, and maybe other people in her life that we didn't even know. But nonetheless, the information spread. So the reverse was always also true. There's an episode called If a Dog Brings a Bone, It'll Take a Bone. And that's exactly what this was. We would get information from her far before other people wanted to have us know, or it robbed them of the ability to tell us first, to share that special news and the joy of, a new pregnancy, a new, whatever. Or the sadness, the loss of something. That busybody element robs the person whose story it is of being able to share the story and manage the story. Share the story in a way that they know for them best represents the situation. And that's the person's right. We have the right to tell our own story. So first we have to identify who that person is. Doesn't mean we don't love them. Doesn't mean we're mad at them. Doesn't mean they're bad people. It means they're not confidential. They shouldn't have our confidence in an estranged relationship. Now, the reverse of that is that you can also, I said we can save, 9 phone calls. So you can also do the same with your son or daughter. If there's something that you really want them to know you're thinking about or thinking highly about, share it with the person who you know also speaks with your son or daughter, not with any bad intention or with any instructions for that person. It's easy to share, so-and-so in the family has a new job. We're so happy for them. That's a great thing. That's a great thing to share. And knowing that information will get to your adult son or daughter is reassuring. It's reassuring to them and reassuring to the family. And again, this isn't somebody that you send out like a friend advocate or a flying monkey. You can listen to that episode. It's a different topic. It's just simply sharing positive and constructive news. As a rule of thumb, we never want to talk poorly about our son or daughter outside of perhaps our very most intimate relationship or a therapist or a coach. Some people use the Facebook groups to share their innermost worries or fears or their anger. And you get this feedback from people you don't know. It's unfiltered. It's oftentimes not kind. There are some compassionate people out there, and there's a lot of the other side too. So the Facebook groups are a little tough. But if you have a therapist or your very most intimate and trusted friend, you can share those things, but not publicly. I've heard horror stories of somebody talking across a curtain in a dressing room and somebody else being in the room who hears whatever's being said and spreads it, or runs directly to the adult child, even worse, with whatever it is they heard out of context, without filtering, and without the parent's knowledge. So they don't even know that there's a negative message out there. So manage your own sharing. You have to manage who, what, when, and where, and how you share information. You have to be your own gatekeeper. It's not easy. We can let down our guard in a social setting. Somebody can overhear it. I heard at a wedding there was actually it happened at a wedding shower, that the groom's mom said to a friend at the shower something about, I don't know, the other family, and the family that was coming in with the bride, and a bridesmaid overheard it and took it to the bride and groom. Well, the mom was uninvited from the wedding. The outcome from that simple miscalculation was drastic for her. And she didn't go to the wedding. So here are some kind of guidelines that might help you. We have 8 of them. The first one is to set clear boundaries. Clearly define what you are comfortable sharing, what you would want them to know and hear, and in the manner you would want your adult child to hear the information. And if you come upon somebody who's digging, who you know is after good information, you just have to have a quick something that you're going to say. I really prefer to keep that private right now. Or, I'm not quite ready to share that publicly. Or, I really feel like that's something I would want to talk to my son or daughter about directly. It doesn't have to be snide or nasty. You can rise above all of those temptations. You just have a default sentence ready. Practice, practice, practice. The research tells us we need to practice new behaviors 14 to 17 times before they even begin to become our default. It can take 6 to 18 months to incorporate new communication tools into our natural way of communicating. So practice. I prefer to keep my personal life private right now, or I'm thinking I'm not ready to talk about that yet. Number 2, be assertive. Stand your ground with busybodies. Don't let them talk you out of information. Don't let them charm you, guilt you. One of my favorites is they'll give you some information in hopes that you'll give them some in return. In other words, they'll give you a bone to get that bone, and then they're going to run with it. So you have to be able to identify the traps, and the sooner you can identify the busybodies, the sooner you come up with your sentence responses, the more protected you are from slip-ups or miscalculations. You can be as assertive as saying, I'd rather not discuss that now. I'm not sure this is the right place to talk about this. I'm not comfortable. You could say, that's really personal, and I'm just not really comfortable talking about that. Very politely, assertively, clearly. Number 3, limit information sharing. We've been talking about that. Be mindful of how much personal information you share. My husband and I went around and around and around about this. He would go golfing with his friends, good friends, people, we raised our children with them. We'd known them for years. And they would ask how the kids were. And he would say, well, we haven't heard from Brianna. She's cut us off. We don't know what happened. He just would kind of dig into it. And they didn't know what to say. They were not prepared for it. They didn't know what to do with that information. They, of course, were supportive. And then you don't know where that information goes. It goes home to their partner, their spouse. It goes to the workplace. It goes to the poker game next week. Who knows? My position was just say they're doing great. They're not really asking you to dig into your deepest relationship issues. They're asking, how are the kids? And the kids actually are fine. They're healthy. They're doing their own thing. They're mad at us. Our relationship's having trouble. Maybe we've been cut off and it's silent right now. But they're okay. They're okay and we're okay. This just isn't the optimal time. And we don't want that message out on the streets. So it took him a long time to understand that private does not mean dishonest. He felt like he was misleading people by saying, oh, they're fine. Or, it's been a while since we've heard from Brianna, but I'm sure she's fine. The kids are doing great. It's school. I'm sure they're all busy. You don't have to dig in. So decide where your boundaries are. Number 4, change the subject. When somebody starts prying or they start digging, change the subject. I have a girlfriend. I love her. She's a very good friend. She leads with, how are Brianna and the boys? She wants the latest story. And I will say to her fairly regularly, I really need to know that you don't talk to other people about this. And I think when I say those things to her, she knows that that's what I mean. And she values the relationship. And I'm guessing, hoping, counting on her not sharing that beyond us. Maybe she talks to Joe, her husband, and he's a steel trap. However, when I don't say that, I think she takes the information as shareable information. And her intent, I don't think she's poorly intended. I don't think she's out just to get a rise for herself or cause drama. I think she does that because she believes the more people who know and support us, the better. She and I both have strong faith lives, and she would say the more people praying for you, the stronger you can be. And I appreciate what she's saying. I just want to be the person to decide who has the information. She's very easy to change, to redirect. So she might ask those questions. I respond, a quick update, kind of a general update about them. The boys are with their dad. We're not sure how it's going, but we're all hoping for the best. And then I ask how her kids are. And she's happy to talk about her kids. She redirects very easily. Let's see. Number 5, use humor. Sometimes we can deflect intrusions with humor. Wow, that's kind of a brazen question. You can use humor to diffuse and deflect, and it signals that you're not interested in that part of the conversation or in sharing those things, but it doesn't really take people right straight on. It's not confrontive. It's a gentle way to try to manage intrusion. Number 6, avoid over-explaining. That's more of what my husband was doing. It's like the person who says, how are you feeling? And they go into a deep conversation about a rash they have. I can't say enough to not overshare and not over-explain. We want to talk about this stuff. We need to have an outlet to talk about our feelings and our experiences, to get reassurance from the people we trust and the people we love. That's very natural. Over-explaining pushes people away. It signals that we are not in control of our own messaging, and we don't always have to be in control. I'm not suggesting that. I'm saying be intentional. Be intentional of, as I said, who, what, where, when, and how you share. Seek support from others. That's number 7. Seek support from others. Again, this might be a time in your life that you want to hire a coach. In my opinion, professional opinion, after years and years of working with people, one time I was a licensed counselor. In my experience, estrangement, a crumbling relationship with an adult son or daughter, does not cause mental illness. It may lead to depression, some situational depression, anxiety, sleep disturbance, insomnia. We may lose or gain weight. There may be some emotional impacts that we need assistance with. That's different than causing mental health issues. So seek support from somebody who you trust, not a busybody. Again, a coach these days, there's kind of a growing critical mass of people who are trained to work with families who are experiencing estrangement or whose relationships are crumbling. Many of them are training under Dr. Josh Coleman. That's where I did my training. And I think it's really, really helpful. You have to be careful of who you engage with. Who's your coach? Ask for their background. Therapists are not necessarily prepared to work with estrangement. We don't teach a curriculum in social work, psychology, medical programs. There's no curriculum related to estrangement. Trust me, after 30 years of working in healthcare programs and developing curriculum and academic degrees, that curriculum does not exist yet. It should, it will, but it does not now. So by hiring a therapist, unless it's to deal with the depression, anxiety, insomnia, emotional roller coaster, maybe to start doing some self-reflection and self-growth, those things I believe therapists are pretty capable of handling. The estrangement in family systems, you can get into real trouble with therapists because what they learn about family systems, other than estrangement, is counterintuitive to estrangement. It's counterproductive. If we follow traditional family system training, we pursue, we tell, it's absolutely flies in the face of what we need to do in estranged relationships. The other thing is there's a real push right now, you probably have heard, out on the internet, if you're out there surfing and looking for information about estrangement, there's a real movement to leave parents, to leave the family unit if you don't like what's going on. And in about 25% of the cases, there are things going on in the family system that are not healthy, that are a threat to someone's mental health or physical health. And in those cases, they should cut ties. I completely support that. In the other 75% of the situations, roughly 75%, leaving is not necessarily necessary. We can find our way through this to repair, rebuild, reestablish, set boundaries. We have to know and trust that we can do that. The pause might be necessary. In my case, absolutely. I would not have been able to listen and look at myself and really understand how my parenting was impacting my children had my daughter not cut ties. I wouldn't have listened. It's a tough love lesson. And I'm awfully grateful that she was willing to, give me another chance and try to help establish a relationship that could be mutually respectful. And we have to work on it every day. 11 years we've been at this, 11 years. And we're still working. We'll probably have to work on this every day for the rest of our lives. So the last, number 8, is to minimize contact. So we're going to minimize our contact with the body. We're going to minimize our contact with the busybody. We're going to manage where, when, how we see them, and make sure we're in a public setting. So that might help them be a little more contained in their questions. It gives us a better reason not to talk about things. Don't share it in writing. Writing takes on a life of its own. If you write an email, it could go anywhere. If you send a text, it can go anywhere. And they do. So manage how you communicate and have minimum contact with the busybody. So again, our 8 tips for avoiding a busybody: set clear boundaries, be assertive, limit information sharing, change the subject, use humor, avoid over-explaining, seek support from others, and minimize contact. So you're limiting your exposure. So I hope that's helpful. I do want to encourage you to go back and listen to the episode on friend advocates or flying monkeys, and the episode on avoiding being misrepresented by others. And then there are a number of other episodes that really dovetail with this information. This is complex. The communication in even the healthiest relationship is complex and requires attention and intention. When relationships start to crumble, that just is magnified. The flaws or the areas that bother people, the volume gets turned up. The spotlight gets shown in the dark cracks where the hurt feelings live. And so I'd encourage you to listen to all of those podcast episodes related to communication and managing, preparing for opportunities to reconnect. And there will be opportunities to reconnect. We want to be ready for them.